Richard. What's been going on in your part of the world?
Well, definitely stock has tightened up. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And there's quite a lot of action in off-market sales.
Yes.
But a lot of that's quite seasonal because, we normally see the market fall away in late June, July. Everyone's overseas skiing, and all these things have obviously changed. So ideally, properties start to come on the market in this sort of like mid-August to September period anyway. But obviously the effects of the COVID scenario are constantly sort of playing out on an ongoing basis. It's kind of quite interesting, from March when it started to climb and into April, then May.
Yes.
Then we saw a little bit more momentum sort of start to come back, and then we're seeing a bit of a second wave now, and we're seeing the economic ramifications of what could be a second blowout. So trends in the share market, a lot of people feeling insecure, but overall what I'm finding, I made sold over 50 million in the first 6 months, and we've basically been ticking properties over. We're launching another property about 18 million next week, which is a big six-figure land holding in Mossman, big tennis court estate, and we already have big interest in this property before we even launch. So I think that there's a couple of things that are interesting. I think that we've had this sort of latent lack of supply, latent demand that has been sitting there.
Yeah.
A lot of really frustrated people who just want to get on with their life. I mean, COVID has nothing to do with the well-being, the happiness and the safety of their family. They just want to move forward.
Yeah.
And they understand that we're going to have to live with this new COVID world, whatever runs out. But at the end of the day, they still need a home.
Yeah.
This demand from buyers is not satisfied by the amount of property that's on the market. So we've got an oversupply of buyers.
Yes.
And we don't have sufficient stock. And, for example, we launched a property off market a month ago or so. Thought it was around early sevens, and within 2-3 weeks we'd sold it for 8 million.
Wow, that's a phenomenal result.
And look, that's just buyers willing to compete. There's not much stock. I mean, for me, it's interesting because for vendors to be opportunistic, and they don't worry about what's happening just now, because you're buying a property that's going to happen, that you potentially are going to be purchasing for the next 10, 20 years.
Yes.
So we're going to see lots of cycles up and down.
Yeah, I know. I spent time with you, and you told me all about the buying cycles and how so many people make so many wrong decisions about buying a property because they don't understand where they are in their cycle. And it ends them costing them either money or opportunity.
Yeah, look, I think these things are changing. I think overall, but I have a lot of very discerning buyers who basically have a bit of a principle that and no one knows where the top and the bottom is.
Yes.
Of course, but idealistically, they will buy a property in a soft market, and they will sell that property what they believe will be close to the top of the market. Yes. But obviously, you don't want to rebuy back in on an increasing curve.
Yes.
And then hold that property for 10 years. And then gradually, some of these people have started off with a $2 million property, and they're up to their second and third cycles, and they're up to $8 to $10 million houses.
Yes.
And they never could have got that incremental growth from their existing property. And a lot of these homes would still be relevant to them today if they'd forced their family to stay within it. So you can make a lot of money tax-free in property if you make the right calls.
So in fact, if you're a buyer and you are wanting to get in touch with yourself, this may be actually the right type of time to sell your property, because there's so much shortage, and therefore you could actually get so many people who are actually looking to buy property if they could get your hand on your one.
Look, I've done it. So I've done it with my own property. So,
okay.
I'm doing what what I preach.
Yes.
I think that what we're going to see is I will settle at the end of this year. I want to be a purchaser next year because
Yes.
I think it's the right part of the curve.
Yes.
And I can secure and did secure a great result for my property now.
Yeah.
But I think for all the properties that I've sold over the last 6-9 months, and that's about 80 million, that those vendors have said, look, I'm a seller really if I can be opportunistic and get a great result, of which they have. And they're sitting pretty now, cashed up in a market where we don't see there's going to be great growth in property. There is one, and that applies to apartments as well, but there is one exception to that, which I think is interesting for the listeners to tap in on, is that the prestige end of the market, which is also the holiday sector and even farms, which is interesting, is going to grow. I've got no doubt in that. I think that with COVID, now the lack in particularly at the prestige end of the market, where a lot of these buyers and vendors are spending a lot of their time overseas on illustrious holidays and traveling for much of the year, that's gone away now.
Yeah.
So they're investing more into improving the quality of their own home.
Yes.
And holiday houses and whatever it is to live that great life that they can here. And people like Corbin Architects, one of the really big local architects at the top end in Mossman, have never been busier.
Wow.
For this reason. So we're seeing architects, renovations, people going nuts from there.
Yeah.
That the values of prestige property will continue to rise. Yeah. I think as the market quietens, and what I'm concerned about is the moratorium in mortgages being lifted in January next year, which is going to have 500,000 mortgages under threat, according to the banks. We're going to see a lot more stock coming on, which is going to be an interesting time, because obviously when you've got less stock, you've got the supply dealing with that stock.
Okay, well, what I'd like to do, Richard, is I'd like to talk a little bit further about what your views are regarding the mortgages and all that. But what we're going to do is we're going to sort of finish off over here, and we're going to think about the mortgage aspects of it on a later call, because I think if the listeners want to get a hold of you, they can go to Simeon Manners. Your website is up there.
Simeon Partners.
Simeon Partners, sorry. And what's your mobile number as well?
Yeah, 0411
0411
499 06.
Okay, so the guys can go to Simeon Partners to the website. You've got your properties that you're looking to market on there. If you want to have a talk directly with the man himself, with the expertise around prestigious property, then there's no one I could think of who's got a better understanding of that market and the prestigious market of how vendors and buyers work than Richard. I urge everyone, if you want to find out a little bit more about property cycles, when to buy, when to sell, there's no other person that I can think of who has that great deal of knowledge than yourself. So I really thank you for this call, Richard. We're looking forward to having more updates from you at a later stage.
Thanks, Pancho. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.